Have you ever caught yourself looking at someone's post on social media and suddenly feeling that your own life looks smaller, slower, or less impressive? Perhaps only a moment earlier you felt perfectly satisfied with your day. Yet after scrolling through a few images of beautiful vacations, successful careers, or seemingly perfect relationships, your mood begins to change. A quiet question may appear in your mind. Why doesn't my life look like that? This simple moment reveals something important about the digital world we now live in. Social media does not only show us other people's lives. It also influences the way we interpret our own. In psychological terms, the way we see ourselves is often described as our self-image. Self-image is the collection of beliefs, impressions, and evaluations we hold about who we are. It includes our perception of our appearance, our abilities, our social value, and our success in life. While this internal image develops gradually through personal experiences, social media has introduced a new and powerful factor that constantly interacts with it. In earlier generations, people mainly formed their self-image through direct relationships. Family members, teachers, friends, and colleagues provided feedback that shaped how individuals understood their strengths and weaknesses. Social comparisons certainly existed, but it was limited to a relatively small circle of people. Today, however, social media has expanded that circle to a global scale. Every time we open a social media platform, we are exposed to hundreds of carefully selected snapshots of other people's lives. These images and stories may come from friends, influencers, celebrities, or even strangers living on the other side of the world. The result is a continuous stream of information that subtly communicates what happiness, beauty, and success are supposed to look like. The difficulty lies in the fact that what we see online is rarely a complete picture of reality. Most people naturally prefer to share moments that present their lives in a positive light. Photographs from vacations, achievements at work, exciting experiences, or aesthetically pleasing images are far more likely to appear on social media than moments of frustration, loneliness, or uncertainty. As a result, social media platforms become environments where the highlights of life are constantly displayed, while ordinary or difficult experiences remain largely invisible. Although we intellectually understand that these posts represent only selected fragments of reality, our emotional reactions often tell a different story. When we repeatedly encounter images of success, attractiveness, and happiness, our minds may begin to treat these curated moments as the normal standard of everyday life. This process can significantly influence how individuals evaluate themselves. One of the most visible examples of this influence appears in the way social media affects perceptions of physical appearance. Modern platforms offer a wide range of filters, editing tools, and visual enhancements that allow users to modify their photographs with remarkable precision. Skin can appear smoother, colors can become more vibrant, and lighting can transform an ordinary setting into something visually impressive. When individuals are regularly exposed to these highly polished images, their expectations of what people should look like may gradually change. Someone who once felt comfortable with their natural appearance may begin to notice details they previously ignored. A small imperfection may suddenly appear significant when compared with the flawless images that dominate online spaces. Over time, this repeated comparison can lead to dissatisfaction with one's own appearance, even when there has been no change in reality. The difference exists only in the standards people have unconsciously adopted. However, Appearance represents only one dimension of self-image. Social media also plays a significant role in shaping how individuals interpret success and personal progress. Online platforms frequently display evidence of achievements, promotions at work, new business ventures, academic accomplishments, luxury purchases, or exciting travel experiences. While these posts may genuinely reflect meaningful milestones, their constant visibility can create the impression that everyone else is advancing rapidly in life. This perception may lead individuals to question their own progress. Even when someone is working steadily toward long-term goals, the pace of their development may appear slow in comparison with the impressive highlights presented online. Psychologists often describe this phenomenon as social comparison intensified by digital environments. Humans naturally evaluate themselves by observing others, but social media dramatically increases both the frequency and the scale of these comparisons. Instead of comparing ourselves with a small group of people in our immediate environment, we are now comparing our lives with the carefully constructed narratives of countless individuals around the world. The psychological consequences of this expanded comparison can be subtle but significant. A person may begin to feel inadequate not because their life lacks value, but because their daily reality does not resemble the exceptional moments that dominate online content. Another powerful mechanism through which social media shapes self-image involves the system of public feedback embedded within these platforms. Likes, comments, shares, and follower counts function as visible indicators of approval. Although these signals may appear simple, they activate psychological responses related to social acceptance and belonging. Receiving positive feedback can produce feelings of validation and recognition, while limited engagement may lead individuals to question the value of what they share. Over time, this dynamic can influence how people present themselves online. Some users may gradually adjust their behavior, opinions, or appearance in order to increase the likelihood of receiving positive reactions. Instead of expressing their authentic thoughts or interests, they may prioritize content that aligns with what the audience seems to appreciate. This subtle shift can have important consequences for self-image. When a person's sense of worth becomes closely connected to external approval, their confidence may become unstable. A positive response can temporarily strengthen self-esteem, while criticism or lack of attention may create disproportionate feelings of rejection. However, it is important to recognize that the relationship between social media and self-image is not entirely negative. In many situations, these platforms can also contribute to personal growth and self-understanding. One significant benefit lies in the ability to connect with communities that share similar experiences or interests. Individuals who once felt isolated in their passions, identities, or challenges can now discover groups of people who understand their perspectives. These communities often provide emotional support, encouragement, and opportunities for meaningful conversation. For example, artists, writers, musicians, and educators frequently use social media to share their work with audiences who appreciate their creativity. Positive interactions within these communities can strengthen individuals' confidence in their abilities and motivate them to continue developing their talents. In addition, social media can expose people to diverse ideas, cultures, and viewpoints that broaden their understanding of the world. By observing different lifestyles and perspectives, individuals may reflect more deeply on their own values and aspirations. Therefore, the influence of social media on self-image depends largely on the way individuals engage with these platforms. When social media is used without awareness, Its constant stream of comparison and feedback may gradually distort the way people evaluate themselves. Individuals may begin to measure their worth according to unrealistic standards or external validation. On the other hand, when people approach social media thoughtfully, it can become a tool for connection, learning, and creative expression rather than a source of insecurity. Developing this awareness requires recognizing that the digital environment often presents a curated version of reality. The images and stories we encounter online are typically shaped by selective sharing, visual editing, and algorithmic promotion. They highlight moments designed to attract attention rather than to portray the full complexity of everyday life. By remembering this, individuals can reduce the tendency to compare their entire lives with isolated moments from others. Another helpful strategy involves consciously choosing the types of content we consume. Following accounts that promote authenticity, learning, and constructive dialogue can significantly influence how social media affects our mindset. When online spaces encourage reflection and creativity rather than competition, they can contribute positively to personal development. Equally important is maintaining a strong connection with experiences outside the digital world. Face-to-face conversations, meaningful work, supportive relationships, and personal achievements provide a much deeper foundation for self-image than online feedback. These experiences remind us that identity is not determined by digital approval but by the values, actions, and relationships that shape our everyday lives. Ultimately, social media functions as a kind of mirror reflecting aspects of modern society. Yet this mirror does not always present a perfectly accurate image. Filters, algorithms, and selective storytelling can distort what we see, making certain lifestyles appear more common, more successful, or more beautiful than they truly are. If we rely too heavily on this reflection to define ourselves, we risk losing sight of our authentic identities. The challenge of the digital age, therefore, is not to reject social media entirely, but to develop a balanced relationship with it. By approaching these platforms with awareness and critical thinking, we can enjoy their benefits while protecting our sense of self from unrealistic expectations. Because in the end, our self-image should not be constructed from likes, follower counts, or carefully edited photographs. It should emerge from our lived experiences, our personal growth, and our understanding of who we are beyond the screen. And perhaps the most meaningful reflection we can make is this: when the notifications disappear and the screen finally goes dark, the person who remains is the one whose self-image truly matters.